G'day guys, my name is Wildkard and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for following my contents, I really do appreciate it. Wherever you are around the world, stay safe, stay healthy, and look after yourselves. It's Tuesday, it's news day. Let's have a look at what's been happening in the world of rugby. Now, everybody knows what's happening around the world. There's a lot of games being cancelled, a lot of shutdowns, a lot of restrictions being reimposed, and so I think everybody's pretty depressed by that by now, so we're just gonna quickly go through all of that stuff, and then talk some other stuff about rugby related that is, not pandemic related. So the big news today, the English has figured out another way to cheat. Okay, so the World Rugby had to patch very promptly a law change to stop the English from cheating, the Saracens to be exact, from cheating around the rucks. And we have some reports from Welsh rugby losing money and all that sort of good jazz. And we're going to have a look at, finish off today with some Super Rugby draws being changed as a result of the pandemic. So let's quickly go through some of the pandemic related stuff, and let's talk about the actual rugby stuff afterwards. So obviously, the explosion of the cases has led to a lot of games being cancelled or postponed. Marcus Smith and his teammates, James Chisholm, whatever. Marcus Smith have been tested positive in Harlequins, Bath and Exeter being cancelled. We have in Scotland the derby between the Glasgow Warriors and Edinburgh getting postponed. Newcastle and Sale is called off. We have Ulster with Connacht on Boxing Day called off. We had Cardiff playing Scarlets postponed after both teams have a lot of players tested positive. And as a result of all of this, there's probably more I missed out, but there's a lot of this stuff being changed around. The Wales Rugby Union has issued an open letter essentially to their fans that they're losing £100,000 per game as a result of the new restrictions that has been proposed by the Welsh government, that all the games after the Boxing Day will be played behind doors with no fans once again. A little bit of heavy-handed response there by the Welsh government. So as a result, the Wales Rugby Union is in a lot of trouble financially. They are even talking about refinancing their debt to cover some of their losses that's going to be foreseeably coming as a result of these restrictions being postponed. It is a very difficult time for Wales Rugby Union. Spent all that money bribing the referee and forgot to bribe their own government, I guess. So let's move on to the next bit. As I mentioned at the start, there's a new way to cheat. New way to cheat in rugby, and it was invented by the Saracens. So there has been a bit of a thing called a new move that the Saracens have invented called crabbing. And then it's basically like the opposite of what's so called the caterpillar, what they call the caterpillar. So the caterpillar essentially is what the defensive players do. You've seen this where the defensive team have a bunch of players queued up behind each other to make a really long ruck, and then the number 9 will get the ball out of the back and box kick the ball, because he was, since the ruck is really long, no one's be able to challenge the box kick essentially. The crabbing is the kind of like the opposite. The attacking team will try to build a ruck sideways, like crab themselves sideways to get closer to the front, and then as soon as the ball comes out, they are free to move forward to try to charge down the ball. So we're going to have a look at this video that's kind of issued to explain exactly what crabbing is. And so we have a look at here quickly. So let's make it this bigger maybe. Okay, so we can see that this is a normal ruck. So Saracens starts crabbing. See this guy, he's crabbing across. He comes, I think, is that Itoje? He's crabbing across. See, he's crabbing, is literally offside, but because he's attached, so he's technically not offside. He's in the ruck. And he's crabbing forward. And then, so Caterpillar will be basically, if this guy gets in there, so this is basically Caterpillar here. This guy's Caterpillaring. This is what they call Caterpillar. So this guy's making the ruck longer. And then the halfback will get the boy and try to do a box kick. So crabbing is the opposite. They try to move themselves forward by being attached to the ruck. And as the ball comes out, he's already super close. And he's trying to do a almost got him to get in number 9 there, right? So that's the latest way of cheating from rugby. And World Rugby came out, quickly patched the law. Basically now, if you are in the ruck in the offside position, now you have to retreat behind the last feet before you can make a play for the number 9. So the person who was doing the crabbing has to move back before he can advance forward. So yeah, the new way of cheating in rugby has already been outlawed before it starts to get out of hand. So that's good to see that World Rugby has responded quickly to this. Something that is, I thought it was a bit weird how that could have been a thing in the first place. But yeah, that's just the crabbing. And then there's a big investigation at the moment into Leicester for Premiership, potentially salary cap breach. As we've seen a couple of years ago, that the Saracens was caught breaching the salary cap, and then having their whole season stripped of the points, and then being relegated as a result for their salary cap breach. So the Leicester Tigers is getting investigated for what they call historic image rights payments. So this is basically what, in case you don't know, how Saracens, that we just talked about, inventing these cheating methods like crabbing, right? How Saracens cheated in when they breached the salary cap is essentially they were able to pay the players with basically what's called, I guess you could call them like fringe benefits. So like paying players that's not in, so essentially they are under cap on the official salary, but they're paying players extra outside of the salary as from some of their as contributions. So like we've seen here, so in the 2018 and 2019 season, in fact going back further, starting the 2016 season, that the cheating Saracens were able to get basically property co-investments with the players. So like if a player wants to buy a house or something, they would just help them out purchasing properties with just giving them co-investment. You're basically paying them money, help give them money to buy properties essentially. Image right deals, obviously getting them paid for using their image, and hospitality payments as well. So they're basically giving them money on the side that's kind of unrelated to rugby to compensate for that, I guess, to compensate some of the top tier players to stay in the club. So fringe benefits essentially. So the Leicester Tigers essentially has something that it's being looked into called historic image rights. So I'm guessing some of the players are getting paid due to their likeness being used, previously being I guess their photos being taken in his, previously being paid off from old usage of usage of old images. I'm guessing that's probably what this means, but basically they're getting investigated. There's no full results of this yet. So yes, Leicester Tigers is getting looked into. Moreover, Warren Gatland is still the I think Warren Gatland is being criticized for his Lions tour. It's just a bunch of salty people in the northern side talking about this. I do feel like Gatland. I do feel like Gatland played really well strategy against the Springboks. I just think that maybe could have executed it a little bit better. But I think overall, Gatland did try to play the Springboks game, but he just wasn't able to execute it as well as the Springboks. But I think there is no other way. There's anyway. So basically, there was someone else coming out to criticize Brian Moore, a former England hooker, came out basically saying that he should have played more of attacking style instead of try to play the attrition style of the Springboks, which we did see Finn Russell play that attacking style in the third test when Bigger came off for an injury early in the game, and they got completely dominated by the Springboks because he just didn't really it's it's easy for these people to say, oh, we're just gonna attack more, score more points. It's like, say, hey, how to win a game, just score more points. But it doesn't really work like that when you're playing against such a great defense by the Springboks, impenetrable defense by the Springboks. And if you just, there's so many times when the Lions attacked, especially in the third match, they could have taken the 3 points and could have probably pulled ahead in some of those moments. Instead of that attacked, decided to go for the try, and the Springbok immaculate defense just weren't able to breach through, eventually leading to them losing a much bigger margin than they did in the previous game in the second test. So, it's easy for these people to say in hindsight, but I don't think Gatland really had much of a choice other than perhaps, drilling his team a bit longer, having a bit more long preparation to play into the Springbok strategy. And I do think that the British and Irish Lions team 2021 was probably the best Lions team I can remember. It was very, very good. And it was just, the Springboks were just better, to be honest. It was, the world champion was just better. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Do you think Warren Gatland played into the Springbok strategy and led to their loss? Or do you think there's another way that he could have played the games? I don't foresee it, to be honest. And then also for Super Rugby, we have a bit of a shuffle up as well. The Australian derbies. So basically now the whole Super Rugby schedule has been changed. Now that essentially we have basically what happened last year. We have what they call basically if I just simplify, it's the same as very similar to 2021. Basically you have all the games New Zealand teams will play themselves in New Zealand for the first basically half of the season. All the Australian teams will play their half of the season in Australia, first half of the season in Australia. And Fiji and Jura is considered Australian side, so they will be playing in Australia. And Moana Pacifica will be playing in New Zealand for the first half. So all of these teams will play separate for the first half of the season. And then around the halfway, what they call the Super Round, they will all converge in Melbourne to play the second half of the season in Melbourne. And all the teams will get the bye rounds after they converge into Melbourne. So all the teams will have their bye rounds on round 6. I think, just basically going into the finals rounds, elimination rounds. So your elimination rounds will be, I think, top 4 teams. And then they will go semi-final and then go straight. And then the winner of those 2 will go into the final round. And then basically also they have this thing called the rival teams. So each team has basically a local derby they play twice. So basically all the Australian teams will play 3 games. 3 of their, so there's technically 4 teams. There's technically 6 teams in Australia's side. But each of the 6 teams will play only 3 of the local Australian teams twice. So they will play, that's what they call, that's basically what they call the rival rounds. So let's have a look what that is. So, 3 rival matches. So the rival matches basically is you play the team twice, essentially, away and home and away. So there's 3 teams, each team gets to play 3 other teams twice, and then all the rest of the competition once, essentially. That's what the rival round essentially means. So, for example, we can have a look at example here. The Brumbies will play the Western Force twice, both away and at home. And they will play the Fijian Jura away and at home. And they'll play the Reds away and at home. But the Brumbies will only play the Waratahs and all the New Zealand teams, including the Moana Pacifica, only once in the season. So that's what the rival round basically means. And then in the end, there is a there's actually a quarterfinal as well. So in the playoffs, there's 8 teams instead of, I said 4, that's actually 8. So there's 8 teams going to quarterfinals. So unless you are the top bottom 4 teams, everybody gets through to the quarterfinals. And then there's a semi-final, and then there's a grand final on the 18th of June. So that's basically what it is. The super round is round 10 is where they converge, and it's going to be in Melbourne. And yeah, that's the schedule, guys. First half, essentially, all home games, and then not home games, all local games, Australia and New Zealand separate. Second half of the season, everyone converged and play the remainder of the season in Australia. That is the Super Rugby plan for 2022 as a result of the restrictions. And yeah. And then finally, we'll have a bit of news. More talks of Wallabies wants to play to move back to NRL. We'll have Tom Rice talking about going back to NRL sometimes in the future. One of his anyway. So yeah, so essentially we had Vinivalu, Suliasi Vinivalu last week talking about going back to NRL, but this week Tom Rye also talking about going back to NRL. Tom Rye only had like a few games in the Wallabies sprint tour, so he really didn't get much time to play in the rugby. I don't think he played at all in the rugby championship. So a bit of waste of his talent. I mean, very competitive in the winger position for the Wallabies. I mean, if he really wants to play the Wallabies, he might have to look at a position switch, maybe in the center position or something. Maybe, I don't know, because at winger he's probably gonna be on the bench if he's lucky. There's a lot of very, very stacked wingers in the Wallaby side. Anyway, guys, that's the news this week. Let me know your thoughts on today's articles. Let me know what you think about the crabbing. And thank you for watching, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you guys later. Cheers.